Some of you people here tonight are relatively new to a live seminar. What you don't know is that I get Dear John letters. And sometimes the people who write to me will write some of the most beautiful, profound statements that I like to share them with you, and I don't edit them at all. I specifically like this one because we've been talking in this movement of spiritual inner awareness about the form called soul and soul transcendence and into that consciousness called God. We could readily recognize God in a physical form as, everybody, and that form can be located geographically. But we're talking about that form that is omnipotent and omnipresent, that is everywhere at all times, in every form. And so we do not necessarily single out a particular individual for the kudots or whatever term we want to call that, of saying, oh, they've got it and nobody else has it. We like to say it's prevalent and resides everywhere, and our form is that form of recognizing it or recognizing that state prior to this one, that condition that we call God. And this person wrote me their initiation report after they had received their first initiation through the mystical traveler consciousness. Dear John Roger, I have been practicing my tone now daily for 26 days. The first 10 or 12 days I would chant it inwardly throughout the day, plus a daily meditation. Recently I found myself forgetting to do this as frequently during each day, though I meditate daily. Chant it for a few minutes several times a day, such as on the bus, and generally while lying down just before sleeping. The word that really comes to mind that describes my experiences since being initiated is beauty. Everything is so beautiful. The trees, hills, sunlight and clouds, children looking into people's eyes, becoming more aware of the subtle, beautiful actions of the spiritual light and the simple things of everyone's daily life, etc. Also clarity and simplicity. How simple many of the once complex troubles and decisions are when I do my tone and tune into the light. Even behind or within many of the troubled expressions I see in some's eyes, there is that clear, simple light, that loving. For the first time in many years, maybe in this whole life, I am experiencing a close, personal, living relationship with the inner love, God, and with you, J.R. I've listened to you read several letters over the years, and I remember hearing in them the thanks being given for the precious gift of your love, and at this sometimes thought, well, yes, but they don't always have to gush it out, do they? Now I realize that this is not a gushing action, really, but more of a rushing one. A waterfall or a wind rushing out of the heart to thank you and God for this gift. Security is another word that describes well what I am experiencing. A solid thought, not anything like materially solid, an inner, non-wordable, seemingly invisible to the physical sight, glowing, beautiful feeling of spiritual security, which is with me through all the levels of experience my life has spun out this far. This isn't in there, but believe it or not, that was all one sentence. And it was really correct. Usually when they get up that far, they'll put a participle or a modifier in the wrong place, but it was really fine. It's difficult for me to describe this experience in words, but it's tremendously real. Even when I do an action that would at one time have gotten me really down emotionally, I now can turn inward, speak to God, chant my tone, and lift up above the depression. Of course, I'm not advocating the continued involvement with useless patterns of behavior, but I am reporting what I have experienced. Behavior is another thing. I am now capable of refining my outer and inner behavior expression to a much greater degree than before the initiation. I find myself liking this discipline also because the results are so beautiful in relationships with myself and others. Sometimes I jump up and down with joy and joyous exaltation, as the old religious song used to say. This doesn't necessarily happen right after meditation, SEs, though that period is becoming one of my favorite. But this joy happens during all times of the day, popping up here and there, bringing with it an inner and an outer smile and bubbling laughter. Also, the fears that used to rack me about what would people think of my physical and emotional behavior are beginning to fade. There was validity to those fears, I see, but I was also judging myself much too heavily. Sometimes I sit down and ask God and you and Jesus to bless everybody in the whole world with this love and light and beauty, and to take special care of everyone. I can only attribute this beautiful, loving feeling, I guess I can just call it love or grace, to the action of the initiation somehow. I can't remember experiencing it before, and the purple light always is with me in meditation. Isn't that a revealing letter? When somebody will turn around and open their heart, their consciousness. It's the point of what you call self-disclosure, when you become extremely vulnerable. Supposing I had gotten this and had corrected maybe a misspelled word and sent it back. Supposing I had said, oh, that's all been a hallucination in your mind. And that that person felt so much love inside of that thing we call the body that it didn't matter what I was going to do or not going to do, because love is sufficient unto itself. Whenever we're in love, besides being foolish about it, and often ridiculous, we feel that there's nothing in this world that we truly cannot handle and handle well. However, we find out later on that's not true either. Because when you're full of love and you're in love, you're absolutely blind to the errors of the person that you love. All their faults are gigantic works of art. And later on, you're after an art auction. I'd like to read you another one because it is a little bit further down the line in what we call progression. This is my third tone report. And some things have cleared for me, I feel, since the last report. Somehow I had it in my understanding that when I did my spiritual exercises, I was progressively making more dynamic my life in the physical. Error. Oh, it didn't say that, but well, I was going to, okay, I'll monitor that myself. I would judge the successfulness of my endeavors in spiritual exercise by the manner in which I would behave and operate in the physical. Somehow, it never occurred to me that what I do in the physical is irrelevant to the manifestation of the spiritual experience. And I must say something here. Oh, he says, if it can be said that way. It can be said another way, and that is, if you do those things that set you up for the spiritual experience. The physical activity only gears itself toward or away from the behavior, which lets the physical be dropped away so that the spiritual may be experienced more directly, sort of like diving into a swimming pool. I was spending so much energy being concerned about the grace of my dives that it didn't occur to me that it was not complete until I got into the water. Isn't that a remarkable picture? Can you imagine diving off in a half gainer and you're in the air? If the point of living on the physical beach is to learn to swim in the water, then why spend so much time practicing on the beach? The bathing beauty contest can do without me. Although they try to get me to sign the entry forms and keep me committed to the rules and regulations and dress code and beach etiquette. Anything to keep life on the beach more fun than going into the water. There are times when I have good feelings of sitting quietly in meditation, and then there are other times when I do just about anything to keep from doing my spiritual exercises. Sound familiar? Usually it happens by just not setting aside a specific time. Do you recognize that, folks? Okay. I judge the way I feel to be significant of what my spiritual progress is. So that's why I feel good about it sometimes and not so good other times. But as I write this, it appears that all I have to do is pull back a little from the mind body, and emotions, and just stop basing the reason, positive flow of consciousness on a transitory state long enough to become aware of the fact that beneath it all, I am resting peacefully. I just get so impatient. I want it perfect the first time or not at all. So if that's the only choice I make, I get nothing at all. Last night I had the urge to sketch a new acquaintance, so I did, but I didn't like it. I wanted to put the materials down and quit. The new acquaintance simply said, "Why don't you try it again?" And I thought, oh yeah, as if the simplicity of the idea hadn't been available to me before. I place my importance once again on physical results than upon action and fortitude. The point is to do, to be doing, rather than to be done, to have done. You understand that? The point is to do, to be doing, rather than to be done, to have done. He's saying those are past. That is just giving my consciousness more junk to be attached to. I must be a fine example of pack rat consciousness. My cheeks swollen with all the new shiny things I've accumulated and carry with me. One thing that rather concerns me is that in my spiritual exercises, I have never had a glimpse of this purple light which comes in from right to left. My experience has changed so often that I have not been able to be sure what is happening is a light action or an effect that I have created or something else. Do you recognize the word confusion coming out of all that? Okay. Then I always want to decide and know and figure out in my head what must be the reason for whatever it was that happened. Two key words to keep in mind while working on the planet. First one is patience. The second one, relax. Do you have much choice? Do you? You must be patient. If you are patient and you're uptight, you will miss it as it comes by. If you're patient and you're relaxed, you'll be able to recognize the level of consciousness coming towards you. Then you get to participate. The old axiom, opportunity only knocks once. That's not true. It knocks you down. You spend the rest of the time getting up, which, by the way, is a real privilege. It's not a privilege to just be in that position of knocked down. A privilege to get back up. Some people get up and they want to make believe that they never really fell. And that's understandable because there is this thing called pride. But when you fall, you fall. When you hit, you hit. How long you stay in that position before you get up is the next big indicator. Now you could say, well, I fell and I decided I will have patience and relax. Wouldn't that be a scream? Then the car runs right over the top of you. What are we saying? Don't forget to use your brains while you're relaxing. We're not saying send them out to pasture. When you're in a relaxed state, a relaxed position, receptivity, open, then you become more attuned to universal energy, that we call power, or the light, or God, or love. When it comes into us, we then start walking in this mantle of light, of purity. Somebody wrote me a little note tonight. The notes indicated, gee, I had a dream, and in the dream I had this heart attack. And it's like, that's right. the unspoken type of question is, was it really, or what was it? It was really a heart attack that was handled in the psychic areas, so you didn't have to handle it physically, because it would have killed you here. And you're too needed. So therefore, grace of traveler was extended to you. You had it there. Don't think you're going to have it again. It's gone. Gone. Some of you have remembered when I related about an accident a lady had in the psychic world, the glass breaking and the screaming and the metal crunching, and she woke up with a tremendous start. She had had her accident already. She knew that had she not had it there, it would have taken place against her in the physical body. We do have this opportunity when we will give ourselves to God, to Spirit, to that term you want to give, to yourself, if that be the term you must use. When you give yourself to yourself, don't be anxious to then give yourself away to somebody else. We get the feeling inside that everything is fine, beautiful, that we're manifesting our destiny, that God is in the kingdom of heaven right inside of your heart. And then you take that and you go to give it to somebody. And they take it and they say, "What's that?" And they throw it down. And you say, "Oh, that was my God in my kingdom," and you threw him down. Says, "Your God's too small." The God must not only sit in your heart, it must also sit in their heart. See? You never give yourself to someone until they have totally committed themselves to you. Wrong. Absolutely unconditionally wrong, because that isn't the way the game's played. That's the game they use against you to take advantage of you. And once they've got what they want, it's toodaloo. You fool. And what hurts then is that now you have a fool sitting in the kingdom of heaven with his feet in your mouth, and he's sitting on your head, and you wonder why you can't express yourself. And then you feel so bad that you are the fool inwardly, and you already were outwardly. I think it's neat, though. I really do. I watch people do a thing, and I say, "God, that's so neat. You're just such a fool." You know, I wish I could say you're a perfect fool, but then if you were, you wouldn't be doing that. So, but it's even nicer to say, "Well, it was foolish." Then that saves the pride. "Oh, you mean I wasn't a fool?" No, you're still the fool. We're just not going to call you that. We're going to hide it over here behind the screen. But behind the screen, you're a fool. It's like, "Don't call me a fool." "Oh, now also you are hurt feelings." It gets really difficult to live in this state of make-believe, of who's doing what and how often, and how you're going to get away with it, and how's it going to manifest, and did I do it right or did I do it wrong, and I don't want to go into this experience if it's going to be bad for me. Anybody know if an experience is going to be good for you? Always the things you go into you think are going to be good for you. You wouldn't go ram your car into somebody thinking that's going to be bad for you. You wouldn't go someplace and leave your wallet sitting out for somebody to take thinking that was going to be good for you. But people do those things. They do. Then when it turns sour in our mouth, because we have to eat it, then we say, "But I felt so sure about that. I was so right. How could it be wrong?" Easy. All you have to do is be here on this planet. You know, we say, be here now, and you'll be right and wrong at the same time. And that's difficult. But one thing we want to be very, very careful that we don't enter into is that we start setting up the manifest destiny for other people to follow. We get away with it for a little while, and then we think, that was okay. That was right. I got away for it for 5 years. Then all of a sudden, they robbed me. They broke me. They took everything. I have nothing. You never had anything for the 5 years. You thought you did. You felt you did. But you entered into a pattern that was not yours to manifest on someone else. In other words, you're not their guru. Did you ever hear about the guru that started having all sorts of teeth problems? So he went to a dentist to have his teeth checked. He wasn't the type that could fill them himself. Not that that means anything. And the dentist said, well, you've got a couple great big cavities down in there, and we're going to have to drill them out, and it's going to be very severe. I want to give you some Novocaine to deaden the pain. He said, no. No. He says, why not? He says, well, I want to try this by my own ability. He says, why? He said, I want to find something that will transcend dental medication. Say the magic word and win a duck. Let the joke teach. All you do is present the material. Let the material teach. People call me for all sorts of reasons, and they'll call me on the phone to help them decide whether they wear white socks or blue socks. And then when I refuse to enter into that, they want to make a spiritual issue out of that, because if they wear red and their boss sees that, they might get fired. They will then lose their job, which will then cause them to lose their source of income, which could make them get behind on their rent and other things, and they would be kicked out on the street, and therefore they would have to incarnate back again. And therefore it is a spiritual problem. And I just don't enter into it. Then they really, well, I ridiculed it a bit, but to them, it's dead serious. And then they will go meandering off in this etheric type of consciousness of all the ramifications of why blue socks over red. And I got to find out, first of all, what shade of the blue and what hue of the red. Hue. Oh, that's spiritual. Well, okay, I have to take it all back. But, there's always a but in every story, or however. And if I were a professor so-and-so, I'd say, therefore. The process is you decide if it's spiritual or not. And if it's spiritual, you have access to the teacher all the time. Anytime. Anytime, all the time. Where's the teacher? In your heart. So when it's up against blue and red, hold them in front of your face in the mirror to see which one matches your aura. Go into your heart and say, teacher, which one? And if the grass is wet and the paper's dry, you understand? They will even attempt to play the guru on somebody, and when it doesn't work, then they come back and try to manipulate the teacher. Now, people try to manipulate me all the time. I say try, because I don't manipulate worth a dollar. I can't even do it to myself. I look in the mirror, I say, that's who it is. When I tell somebody something, I say, You decide whether it be true or not. You decide. Of course, they say, but tell me the truth. I have to keep my mouth shut to tell you the truth truthfully. But to tell you the truth means I'm going to tell you my concept, my origin, my derivation of what I think is truth, based upon this situation that you've got me trapped in, to how I can get out of it in a hurry. It's called lying to somebody's point of view. But to the one who's being nailed to the cross, it's called the truth. And yet, what causes the problems that makes a person want to manipulate their teacher? What causes it? The thing that caused it was their inordinate greed. Their inordinate ability to not see that they had fallen into that is the negative power, and they're going to eat it. And to justify that, they're going to manipulate the psyche of other people through mental gymnastics and be able to do a pretty good job. And the one they manipulate is free, karmically. But the one who manipulates them has to eat that, plus theirs, plus all the ramifications of that person's clear down the line. They're going to eat the karma for it. And there's nothing anyone can do about that, because they entered into it as a teacher. They assumed the role of the teacher. It's like, don't do that, do this, relate to me this way, get loose of your habits, get loose of your hang-ups. It's like, shut up and I will. You keep telling me what they are, and you keep focusing me on that until I can't focus away from that. And if I can't focus away from that, how can I get free of it? Shut up. I'll get free. It's like, you see, you're telling me shut up, you're defending. Yeah, before I attack you, I'm going to defend myself. You're going to get it any minute now. Any minute now. You shouldn't say any minute now. You should say any time now. Because they know what a minute is. But you don't know what any time is. That's the truth. It varies from person to person depending upon the situation. When we enter into those relationships in this world that deal with other physical bodies, we must enter into it as though we're walking on eggshells. And that one who assumes the holier-than-thou attitude is cursed by their own action. And at that point, it's God doing it to God all right. But let me tell you, there's a lot of gods out there doing it to a lot of gods. And one of them says, God damn it. That's the one that's doing it to you. The God known as damn it. The one we work with is the one known as love. And when we enter into love with another person, and we enter into understanding, and we enter into that relationship of upliftment without attempting to teach them of their follies, or to point out their errors, or show them how weak they are, and how inadequate, and how incomplete, how could you ever love a baby who is so inadequate and incomplete and so not all there? How could you possibly love them? And yet that child loves you knowing full well that you've blown your lifetime. And they're coming up just asking one simple thing, give me a straight shot at it. Just give me a straight shot. And I hold youngsters, and they talk to me. And they talk to me in some of the most dynamic terms, just absolute simplicity. And they'll put their arms around me, and their heart just speaks. And it doesn't say great big vocabulary words. It just stands there as this dynamic form of love and just says you can enter into it. And to get into that, boy, I just run purification on me just in case something creeped in. I run that so fast. And if it meant go shower before I would pick up the child, I would go shower first. And if it meant down on my knees praying to God, I would do that first. That simplicity of the childlike life is next to godliness. And when we get older, we start sophisticating our life, and we run out the vocabulary words and snow people, and then we feel superior on the way to hell. I have a hard time understanding that, but I see it. And then when we feel sad that we're growing up, we really should feel sad if that's the way we're growing up. I should say groaning up. Often I've looked in the mirror and I've said, oh, Lord, it's really too bad that you're getting older, because, every day these people around you are teaching more and more how to withdraw from contact with them. And I remember at one time in this movement, when there were just a small group of us, I think sometimes there were 11, 12, or 13, and we were sitting in the house, and the love, the rapport, the openness, it was just so simply there. And I couldn't drive home. I'll never forget this, because I would get in the car and I would pass into another world. It's called dead. And we'd be going along really fine, and all of a sudden she would hit these chuck holes in the road. They were big ones. They'd go, hum, hum. And I thought, well, there went the springs. There went this. There went that. My back, my neck. And I'd get up and I'd lean forward and look in the rear mirror and look out, and I could see the chuck holes in the road. And after about 14 times of this, I said, don't you realize that you're hitting those every time? I don't quite remember her response, but I think it was something like, it takes a good driver to hit those every time. And the thing of it is, she didn't know what lane it was in. And she would always maneuver the lane she thought it was in to get out of that lane, because that was when they had the chuck holes, to get in the lane where the chuck holes were. And I was going to diagram them for her. Here reside the chuck holes. But I thought one night I would fix her. I would give her the full height of an awareness. This was going to be enlightenment. Illumination's when you're totally. Enlightenment's when you have one area that you're really sharp in. Like picking your nose or something like that. The nitty-gritty. Or you walk around with your finger in your ear. But we were coming down the road, and we were coming close to the spot where the chuck holes, and it had been raining. But I remembered them because my body knew just how far down the road to go before the chuck holes. It was really conditioned. And as we were maybe 5 or 10 minutes from the area, I just sort of opened my eyes and looked around, and she was busy, lost in thought, going down the road, driving. We used to listen to Camelot. I think that was it. And as we go along, I just turned to her, and I got really ready. Now, don't jump when I do this. I got a great big breath, and I turned around, I said, whoa! And she turned around, whoa! And I just went white, clear down to my toes. My heart's going, ka-dum, 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 ka-dum. I was up here, trying to swallow, get it down. But her reflexes were so fast that I got enlightened real fast. By the time I got thoroughly settled down, she hit the chuck holes. It became quite obvious to me that I wasn't going to be able to teach her anything about that. So we stopped doing seminars up there. If it doesn't work for you, folks, you get a chance to move. Take the chance, move. Otherwise, you get the chuck holes. I should have realized after the first 10 that she had it down. But you always have hope. You always have that thing inside of you that says, maybe they'll do something else. If they did, I'd gone crazy. What did you do, Mr. Chuck holes? I hit them inside of me. You should have hit them out there. Either way, we're going to do it. It's either going to be out there or it's going to be in here. But if there's chuck holes, and we've had that experience, friends, we're going to be having it inside of us. The only thing we could do after that was laugh about it like we've been doing tonight. But the time it wasn't all that funny because it was like those tires aren't that good. And I know if it had a flat tire, I would immediately have passed out into God consciousness and she would have had to change it. She never worked me. I don't know if that would have happened. Because my point of view very simply would have been, you earned it, you got it. And you can't say I didn't tell you over and over and over until I had her programmed into the chuck holes. Now, I'm not surprised that she might not just go up there some while just to hit those to feel if they're still there. And if they are, then we should write a letter to the California road people. But what we're talking about is that very thing that we fear will come upon us. If it doesn't come upon us, we see to it. We'll actually direct people into it. And then when they do it, we hit them. We hit them. We pound on them. Why do we want to say, gee, that's really interesting. Maybe we could go down the coast route next time instead of down the super highway. Maybe the point of view is, let's stop earlier and trade places and let me drive into the chuck holes. Let's modify something because there's a prior condition that we have left to enter into this condition of teaching that is not working, that has become disastrous. Of course, I could sit and feel very good about women drivers. I could have done a whole number on them. What good would that have done me to justify myself of her inadequacies when all along I'd still be complaining because she hit the chuck hole? But once you find that place inside of you that everything's a chuck hole, it doesn't matter. If you hit one chuck hole, you've hit them all. There's no way you can hit them all, so go ahead and try. Some people will. Some people will. They're fools. Take it from me, there's no way you can hit them all. There's no way. There's nothing you can do in any situation with an individual that will do anything for them short of loving them completely. Later on, I marveled that the way she could hit those chuck holes and the car's wheels would not go out of alignment. And I marveled that she didn't react and run the car into a barrier to some other place. All of a sudden I realized I don't have to be concerned about what this lady drives. She can drive me to the place where I'm going to be and I'm going to be safe, and I let it go. From that day on, it was fine. Because I know if there's a chuck hole, she'll find it. I don't have to look for them at all. I sit back totally relaxed, very patient, and I relax, but I don't say anything to her about it. I just love her. See, that's the big key. When they're against you in the trials and the tribulations, it's very easy to give trial and tribulation back, but that's just directing them to the next place of trial and tribulation. And then when they do it to you, don't be surprised. You're pointing it out to them. Then when it happens, you say, see, I told you so. It's like, yeah, and you created it, and you've nailed me to it, and we're always going to have it. Why didn't you tell me something else? Why didn't you say, gee, it's okay. You're more valuable than the tires. You're more valuable than the money. You're more valuable than all these other things. Because why? You are. You are more valuable. And then focus upon that is the love. It's present. It doesn't mean that all the time it's easy. I wouldn't want to mislead you into that. Let me mislead you into the love. Let me do that. That would be really fine with me. But even that I have to say, but check it out yourself. Because the teacher is easily known by love. And that love resides in your heart. When you want access to me, go into your heart. If you're going to call me up to manipulate my mind or my emotions, don't bother me. I can do that for myself. If you want to write me a letter explaining all the disastrous points of view against you, please write me the letter. Up to this point, I've been reading all of them. I don't know if I'll guarantee that tomorrow. But some people get surprised when they write a letter and they say, I'd be surprised if you've read this far. And I write, I've read this far, and I send it back to them. Or they'll meander off. They say, I'm just really just meandering. I say, all right, yeah, I know. I wish you'd get to the point more often in your letters. But only when they state what they're doing do I agree with them. And that's why you don't get a lot of letters back from me telling you how to do this and how to do that, and why you should do this and why you should do that. It's sufficient to me that you have released it to me. It's sufficient. It should be sufficient to you that you have sent that and you release it. And when you do, I can handle it. Oh, believe me, I can handle it. There's ample proof about that. But it's awful hard when we keep seesawing back and forth of you trying to give it, me trying to take it, and you won't let go, and you keep pulling me off balance. I say, get out of here. It's easy to get anybody off balance. If you want me to have it, sit it down and walk away, and then I'll pick it up. And you have to have the wit to let it go. What does that mean when you let it go? Does that mean you're no longer responsible? No, it doesn't mean that. It means you have now let go the solution to it. You're no longer responsible for the solution. You're just responsible to go through it. And I'll solve it for you. And all I say is be patient and relax until I can mix the ingredients. It takes a little time. Some of the work that I have to do can't be done strictly from the soul or the God or the spiritual level. I have to come down into the mental and the emotional. And some of it I have to come down into the physical. But when I do, you can bet we're doing initiations. Or we're blessing a child. Or we're going to scratch somebody's back. Those are important. Or to feed somebody. But I don't have to sit and listen to how somebody got all your money from you because you weren't watching what you were doing, or they took your food and threw it over when you weren't watching, or they wrecked your car because you left a key in it. It's done, it's past. It's done, it's past. Let's go from here. But there is this thing on the planet that's called integrity. It's lacking. It's lacking. The integrity of that is correctly mine, and that is not correctly mine is not mine, and I do not have to enter into any relationship to prove it. It just is what it is. If I have to enter into a teaching relationship to show you what's mine, it's never been mine, and it's never going to be mine, and I'm going to make a fool out of myself in front of you any second. That's mine and that's yours is the air. And we don't have to be concerned about it. And the sun and love, that love that's in your heart, who can take it away? Only that one who can go into your heart. And how do they do that? You either create it, you allow it, or you promote it. And when it happens, eat it. It's yum, yum, snap, crackle, pop. It's breakfast food, dinner food, and any other kind of food. It's there for you. You see, we're so busy trying to manipulate people's bodies around so we feel superior that we find out that all we are garbage collectors. Those physical bodies are walking around sewers. They're full of disease, decay. And then we're going to try to own them. And to prove that, we're going to mess up their minds and their emotions and mess around with their psyche for whose glory? God's glory? For your own, and you get it. and you get to be the king of those kingdoms, and you get to stay there, and you get to maintain them, and that's hell. We can let it go. We can let it go. But that takes an inner knowing. An inner knowing. And we must practice going into that inner place where that knowing is found and contact that. Then it will produce phenomena for you like you can't believe. It'll make you feel like you are the local avatar. It'll make you feel like what you do is perfect and that you can do no wrong. Watch it. Because somebody else down there is feeling the same thing, and you're going to collide with them, and they're going to rub your nose till it's bloody. Because at that level, it's the power makes the right. And that power here is law. The law. And so we do all things legally. We do all things according to law. And we fulfill the law. And when it doesn't work, we change the law, that we may be freer in our expressions with each other. But have you ever stopped to realize that those laws are made because people are attempting to take advantage of other people? They forget the spiritual form that they are, and they enter into their greed. They enter into their pattern that we call ripping people off. But at the same time, friends, we are either allowing it, creating it, or promoting it. And what can we do? Be patient and relax. Be patient and relax. If we, honest to God, could understand that concept, relax, and let the body relax, illness would vacate. But we'd have to be relaxed long enough, we'd have to be patient until it completely left. But we'd get so impatient, we'd jump up and say, I want it out of there. It's like, uh-oh, you tied down 2 more. Now it's not just relax, it's called relax, 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 relax. A long string of them. And I call this level here a lot of things. I call it the schoolroom. And I said a lot of things to learn here. Seeing the minds and the emotions, we can have things real fast. This level is called patience. And the thing that we enter into it in order to gain is impatience. And we use worry, and we use anxiety and depression as our tools to gain patience. Doesn't work. The first you have to find out is that worry doesn't do it. Greed doesn't do it. You have to find out all the things that don't do it. And once you've identified them, you put them aside, then you say, well, what does it? We say, patience. Why? Because you're here dealing with time. And the way you beat time is through patience. And that patience allows you to lift above through relaxation and observe the spectrum of life. And that moment, you are in the consciousness called God or love, and there is no time. And there is only infinity, which is patience. See, it's forever. We have forever. We say, well, how does procrastination fit in there? According to time. We say, well, if I don't get up and go do it, it'll never get done. That's probably true. Go ahead and go do that. Are you relaxed? No, I'm uptight. Relax. Well, I should have been there 10 minutes ago. Patience. It's going to take you 10 minutes if you leave now. Relax. Take that 10-minute walk in relaxation. Or you can take it real fast, uptight, and when you get there, you'll still be late. But you'll be uptight late. You'll be miserable late. You'll be late, and you're going to tell everybody about it, and you're going to be chewing your guts into fiddle strings, and then let's see what kind of a tune you play. People say, hurry. I say, that's not a hurry. I'm getting in my car now, and I'm going. And if you're going, you are going to have to enter into impatience, because I'm leaving now. And that means you better get up and get going when I get going, because I'm leaving. And if they want to wait, it's like, oh, fine, you'll be patient till I get back later on. And if you're not, then you can do whatever you want to do because you can't manipulate me. And if you want to find me, just look in your heart. You want to communicate? Just look in your heart. But if you come in and try to play an ego trip on me or manipulate me, I'll point to the door. If you come to me in love, the door opens. It's like, sure, you want to eat? I'll cook for you. I'll feed you. Yes, I'll do those things. In love, all things are being done. All we do is walk through them in this physical world. We just walk through them. If we find ourselves sitting down too long before we get to it, then we say, yes, it's patience, but you went beyond patience. You went beyond that into anxiety. Now you've got to really gun your motor to make up for lost time, and there's no way you can make up lost time. And to justify it, you're going to martyr yourself inside and berate yourself for false dealings and shortcomings. And what good is that going to do? No good. None. You might as well say, well, hey, it's gone. It's over. It's past. Here and now is the place to be. Right here, right now. And I think I'll just relax and enjoy now. Enjoy here, this moment. But as soon as we start furrowing the brows and we start becoming concerned, I tell people, you're going to split your brains in half by frowning yourself. It's focusing too much. You're focusing down too much. You're trying to get too much. You're trying to get more than what is there. Relax. Let what is going to get you. Let that is for you be for you. Then when you take it, you can take it gracefully. You won't be uptight. You won't be the fool. You'll say, oh, that's mine? Thank you. And you let them put it in your hand. And when they let go, then you can close your hand. But up to that point, it's not yours. And it's never going to be yours really. It'll just be yours for now to utilize. Refine it, make it better, give it to someone else. That giving, that sharing, is part of this action here. That demonstrating, that loving. But do not take on the role of the teacher in order to manipulate somebody out of your lack. Out of your misunderstanding, you want them to understand. Out of your lack, you want them to be broke. Let them be what they are. Let them do what they want to do. Let them go where they go. And you gain understanding. Let them be free. Let them love you that they have met you. Don't think that somebody's relationship with you is such that they must learn a certain thing or they must sit a certain way. But people do this. Let them do any way they can do. It's very, very important that we allow people their own psychic space. Very important. Even a youngster, if you cut them too close, they'll start yelling. They'll start fussing. It's like you've not only overwhelmed me physically, but you're smother-loving me. I don't mean over-mothering type of smothering. It's too much. And so when it pushes from us, it says, give me my space that I may stand. And when we see the youngster standing up, something inside of us stands up. When we come to relate to someone, let's keep a few cardinal principles in front of us. One is that is us appearing through that form. I must take care of that. The other one is allow that form to be. Allow that form to express. Another one is do not set the standards of the world out of an inferior form, which is the physical body, or the emotions, or the mind. Let spirit set the form, and then lift into spirit to see what that form is. You'll be happier. You'll be freer. And not only that, you'll be given happiness and freedom. And that doesn't mean to be gushing on them. It doesn't mean that. It just means being free. Berush Beshan.